Hello everyone, welcome to TC Live. How are we all doing? I hope you're so well. Hello everyone, we're live. How are we doing? You can hear me again,
Good.
Discord
How
people?
are you?
Fantastic.
Doing well.
I'm good, thank you, Nick. Thank you for asking. You're the only one. Hello everyone, welcome to Trek Central Live, the 11th of October. We're of course going to be discussing Star Trek Lower Decks, Episode 10, the fantastic Season 1 final of the show. We're also going to be talking about Discovery Season 3, along with what to expect on Lower Decks Season 2, what to expect on Discovery. For Prodigy news, we've got a lot to discuss tonight, so strap in, put some seatbelts on your ears, because we're taking them for the ride of your life. No, I've not been watching the IT crowd again. Tonight I'm here with my host as per usual, Dom. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm looking forward to talking about this great episode.
Fantastic. And of course, I'm back with Nick as per usual. How are you doing in the new camera setup today?
Looking good, looking a little blue.
Hmm.
Maybe that's by design. Maybe it's not. Maybe it'll look better next time. I don't know.
It's going to have an ever-changing background at this point.
I'm just doing the Dom Paris.
What people don't know, it's actually a green screen behind him. It's not actually a setup. It's all green screened in there.
That's true. I'm actually outside.
Exactly. He's actually outside, like Jerry O'Connell in every Star Trek video, apparently.
That's
And we're also
true.
joined by our special guest this evening, Mr. Law Reloaded. Law, how are you doing? And thank you for joining the show tonight.
Doing well. Yeah, enjoying it. Wish I had put up some of my lights. I'm the least fancy here, so I missed the ball on that one.
I wasn't gonna say anything, but
Yeah,
Right.
it's a pretty bad wall. It's all right. We've got some art for Law on the way, including a Ketwolski original. We've just sourced it outside of Berlin during the 1940s, and it is going up on that wall. So that'll be coming very soon to Law's background. I look forward to watching your videos where that's included.
It's vintage.
it
It's
is-
vintage. I heard the artist was really good. So
Yeah, he got kicked out of art school though. I don't like where this joke is. I don't like where this joke is going anymore. We're moving out.
Yep.
I don't know where it's going anymore.
Yeah, I don't know why I brought it there.
I
didn't
realised
like-
after what I said before the stream, I went off the rails immediately of the reference I made, which is very bad.
Yeah, you said 1940s Germany. I don't know, like
he's more known for his written work. Anyway, can we?
yeah.
Let's
Yeah.
go.
We need to.
That's the way to start the stream.
Yeah. Anyways,
Anyways,
Lower Decks
Star Trek.
is a thing that has happened. We should talk about that.
Mhm.
So I was
Also,
mentally
small
recovering.
note. I think I've actually gotten bluer somehow since the stream
You
started.
have
Which maybe by the end of
See,
it, it's just going to be one giant.
People
blue
may not
blob.
know this. I'm slightly colorblind. You know this after the argument you had about the thumbnails, but it's now looking purple to me on one screen.
It's okay.
What people don't know for a
not-
while is the TC thumbnails were slightly green, and you can still see that because a certain person can't see the difference between the colors, which is
it is.
funny but not funny at the same time.
Turn
Now-
these lights on.
Now you're in.
No.
Okay.
Oh.
Honestly, the quality of your face there is good, but slightly scares me as well. Not your face doesn't scare me; it's the quality of it.
That's what I was gonna say. I'm not convinced he's not CGI. This is not like CGI
where-
Ketwolski.
You
This
know,
is where
you
the
made a
budget
joke
for
about where all the
Discovery-
big bucks go. That's where it's gone. We've had to CGI him in.
Yes, Triangulum says Ketwalski the Andorian. I'll buy into that. I'll do that. I'm Strands, buddy.
To be honest, I have a picture of Dom with some Andorian antlers, which I'm
No.
never allowed to show due to legal
No.
reasons. Because someone threatened to
Please
cruise
don't.
missile my
We'll see
house.
that eventually. When we shut the channel down, we're gonna put that up. That's gonna be
Yeah, when someone puts
That'll be the art. I'll have Ketwolski on one side and then that picture on the other.
Right, thank you
like
for this
that.
last ever stream. We're closing as of tomorrow. No, I want the
Yeah,
colour bias
that's
to be
it.
worked into a Star Trek plot, probably. If they ever work me into
it's,
Star Trek, we can
yeah.
find it out. Right, gentlemen, before we go off the rails anymore in the first 5 minutes,
Yep.
let us, of course, discuss Star Trek Lower Decks, Episode 10. As a warning for anyone watching this, if you've not seen the episode yet, turn away now. We're going full spoiler mode, though, to be honest with you, if you've been on the internet in the last 5 days, you've probably already had it spoiled to you. And the actual background picture
Yeah.
of the stream is a massive spoiler, which I've only just realised. And the actual opening thing. To be honest with you, we're a bunch of assholes. But anyway, enjoy this discussion. Guys, what did you think of Episode 10? I'm going to start with you, Law, as you're our special guest today. Thoughts on the episode overall. What did you think?
Oh, I thought it was good. I think it was one of the strongest ones. Episode 9 was really strong too, and they somehow kind of outdid from episode 9. I liked everything about it. Not a lot more to say till we get really deep into it.
And of course, Dom, you next.
Well, like like what Law said, episode 9 was my favorite, and I didn't think that would be the case from episode 8, and now episode 10 is my favorite. It just completely did everything perfect in my book. I loved it, and I can't wait to get into the details with it.
And yourself, Nick.
Yeah, I would say that 8, 9, and 10. Not a pun on the jazz reference there, but episodes 8, 9, and 10, I felt like were on a different level, and this perfectly capped off not only that little trio of episodes, but really just capped off the whole season. And I would say that it closed out extraordinarily strong, and I would argue that probably finished up probably the best first season of any Star Trek show that we've had so far.
I totally agree with you, to be honest with you. Like, it's fantastic. The minute the minute they reference the Titan in one of Jack Ransom's offhand comments, my ears like, oh, hello, like we're gonna get it. And then they left you up until, and as soon as you hear, "Sir, there's another ship inbound," very reminiscent to 2009, where it's like, "There's another ship, it's the Enterprise." It's very reminiscent of that in a way. The Titan comes in, the full Next Generation fanfare as the phaser fired, torpedoes, etc. With Riker and everything. It's like, this is a fantastic way to end the first season of it, because it's Mike McCann's dream. You can tell a very big Star Trek fanboy is telling this story in a way, which makes it even more special. It doesn't discredit the other shows or anything, because there's also Star Trek fans who are creating them. But this here, you can tell, like, Mike McCann wrote this. Well, he did actually write this episode as well, and I think he wrote the pilot, or at least episode 1.
Yeah.
It was fantastic, to be honest. I loved every moment of this episode. Having the Pack-Leds as well as the enemies, not to... who would have expected them, of all people, to be these vicious enemies tearing ships apart? All the funny little in-jokes as well, like the Sovang or Solvang have, like... the peel's still on it, like nobody removed the peel or the film from the controls here. Like, that's what you do when you get a new monitor or an iPad or something.
She made everyone take off their boots. You had to walk around on your little Starfleet socks.
It's one of those jokes they make, and you think, hang on, I can relate to that. We've all been in the same thing before, where your family member or partner has got a new carpet or something in the house, and you're not allowed to walk on it until like 2 weeks later, where the idea goes out the window. It's very reminiscent of that. Honestly, I love this episode overall. Sarah, thank you for your $5 donation. The final episode was the only one that brought out true emotions in me. Very good to hear. And guys, don't forget, you can tell us how you found the Lower Decks episode. Feel free to donate or drop your message in chat. We'll be doing some chat reading throughout this stream and discussing with you. But of course, we want to hear your opinions as well. Thank you to all of those who are currently donating and becoming members of the channel. It is greatly appreciated. But yes, I guess we better talk about the big, elephant in the room. The Titan is now actually canon. Now, the ship first came about in 2005, thanks to Sean Tongu, I believe that's his name. My apologies if I mispronounced it. He designed that for a book, and what was the book called again, Dom? Was it Beneath the Raptor's Wing or something else? I can't remember.
I can't remember.
It was Romulan related, hence why I keep saying Beneath the Raptor's Wing. Wing?
Something Raptor related,
wing.
something Wing related.
Yeah, I've just watched Enterprise, and they refer to Romulans as Beneath the Raptor's Wing, etc., so I'm not sure.
Right.
Anyway, it's first cut in 2005. It's appeared in Memory Beta and various other novels since then. Eagle Moss / Hero Collector have even made a model of it. I have it on my desk down here somewhere. It's been that famous. Only now, this year in 2020, is it actually canon, though, because for a while it's been in beta canon. And Laura, as you're like our resident lore expert for this evening, the Titan, I expect you've covered and talked about it numerous times in videos, etc. What did you make of it coming into canon?
Yeah, I've always liked the Titan. I thought it was an interesting ship. Generally, I focus on alpha canon, not beta canon, so I haven't done it as much. I'll be doing it a lot now, which leads into one thing I think would be really interesting that I was curious. The only specific issue I had with episode 10 is I fear that in season 2 they're going to try to take away everything gained by Boimler, by Mariner, because I think it would be a good series finale. Not that I want it to be, but I think it is an acceptance of their arcs, and so I don't want them to redo it. And a fan brought something up, and I'd be curious what you guys thought. What if all of this was somewhat gaslighting to have season 2 actually be on the Titan? Like they bring over Mariner, not return Boimler or anything like that. I was curious. Again, I love the ship. I think it's like if you took a Galaxy class or a Nebula class and made it with teeth, like a Kira class. I think it's excellent.
I like that theory. The only honest to goodness, the only stickler in that theory is they wouldn't be able to get Frakes on for a full season. It's not going to happen. And they could do it so that he films, like maybe he records a couple of his episode lines and they just spread it out throughout the season. But I feel like what I personally think is going to happen is they're going to have, I know we talked about this during the live stream, I think there's going to be a moment where Boimler realizes that his heart belongs on the Cerritos, and that's where he wants to go back to. And then he has a good heart to heart with Riker about wanting to go back there, and Riker's like, oh yeah, I was on the Enterprise for way longer than I should have been because I loved it so much, and he's going to transfer him back to the Cerritos. That's what I think is going to happen. I I do think that because Mike McMahon said that we're going to see more Titan, we're going to see more Riker. They're not going to immediately undo it, but obviously they're going to have to change something because it can't be a show about 2 ships with the crews split like that. Because then we're going to have a lot of characters, like too many characters. It's going to get ridiculous. So yeah, I think that they'll eventually merge them back together somehow. I don't see them being on the Titan though. I don't see it personally. I don't see that.
Do you want them to be on the Titan? Would you like to see that though? I hate that we'd lose the captain of the Cerritos, but would you want to see a Titan centric season 2? Because I think that'd be awesome.
I'm gonna throw it out there, and I want to hear what everybody else thinks. Is if I love the fact that this show has now made the Titan canon, but I don't know how I feel about the idea of it always just being an animated format. I selfishly want it to be live action, but you obviously can't do that because Frakes and Marina Sirtis are much older now, so they wouldn't really blend well with being on the ship. But yeah, I don't know. Like maybe I like the idea of having more Titan episodes, but I don't want a full animated Titan show. But that's how I feel about it.
I mean, I slightly agree with you there. I'll answer before you don't. But so I love the Titan. I'm fantastic with it's in Lower Decks, and as much as I would love like a whole season 2 on the Titan, Mike McMahon's already confirmed that it will be in season 2, episode 1. So there's a clue as what's going to happen in a way. However, I've now grown attached to the crew of the Cerritos in a way, or Cerritos, and I really like Captain Freeman and Commander Ransom, etc., and Dr. Tanana. I wouldn't want to lose them for the sake of having the Titan and William Riker. As much as I love Deanna Troi, William Riker, the idea of a Titan, the Lunar class, etc., save that for another time. We can always come back to them in animation, etc. Got plenty of years left to do that. Now we've decided to do a new story in Lower Decks, and these are our characters and cast to play with. We shouldn't get rid of them for the legacy characters, if that makes sense. As much as we do like them, it almost invalidates their content in a way, if that makes sense. I would just not really be happy with it. As much as I love Jonathan Frakes, I mean, I can listen to that man talking Star Trek for hours and hours, now years, to be honest. It would just be a bit of a shame to wave goodbye to those characters who've we've seen for a whole season so far, and everyone's grown on us and developed a lot better in a way. Like Frakes has had 15, 20 years to develop Riker.
Yeah, right.
These guys have only had a year or 10 episodes. Some are not even that. Yeah. It's like let's not throw away that just yet for the sake of having somebody already know back. Let's get to know these new people a lot more in a way. That's my thoughts on it. Don, what do you think?
Well, I would go a little further on what you said with I think the development in just episode 10, which we got of Captain Freeman, I really enjoyed. Just how when they got grappled by the Pac-led ship, and the captain was like, "Okay, we shouldn't warp because that's probably what Captain Dayton did, and that's what killed them." Right. And just her decisions throughout this episode, and then that culminating in the end being like, "Yeah, Starfleet isn't perfect. Me and Mariner can try and do the best we can." So just the development that they've had and going further with that, I would love to see on screen. And however much I would like a Titan show, maybe we can get a Titan show in animated form.
Even short
they're
track.
throwing shows out everywhere. Or short track, yeah. I mean, that's what I said on the stream when I spoiled that the Titan appeared. I was like, this was a perfect place to do an animated short track on the Titan. I think that would be amazing. But I want more of the Cerritos. Now it's, got repaired, and hopefully get more development for like Rutherford, because I feel like he's gotten the least this whole season. Like Tendy's got some, Mariner's got some, Boimler's got some.
Now he's a whole new character, essentially.
Now he's
Rutherford and Tendi are glorified back characters in my opinion. I think it's a shame what they've done to them. I would say even Tendi, they're just there to service Mariner or Boimler when they need to. It's a shame because I like them.
Yeah. I think if Tendi is I've answered this question earlier, which in a different stream, where somebody's like, "What's your favorite character?" And actually, Tendi is probably one of my favorite characters on the show, but she's had the least development on screen. I think that they tried to pick it up a little bit more towards the end, and she had that moment about the Orion stuff, and then she got to interact with the Exocomp, which was great. But yeah, I think that they've gotten a lot better, like especially in 8, 9, and 10, of giving the 4 of them things to do together, where before it seemed like either they would be in different pairs or it would just be Mariner and Boimler, and then Rutherford. Like I think there was one episode where Rutherford like had like one line, and like it was like that was it. And it's like, not every episode I get that. Not every episode's going to be able to do that. But yeah, like you said, Laura, like they were kind of a little bit more glorified background characters. They had a few moments to shine, like the Badgie episode and stuff. Like they had a few moments to shine here and there, but definitely the focus is on Mariner and Boimler. But I think that at the end there, they really started, I think really with the episode where they were doing the courtroom thing, the birthday courtroom celebration thing. That was like the first episode where they really kind of cracked the nut, I felt like, on getting them all together and doing things. So that's, but I agree. Like there needs to be more of that. And essentially now Rutherford is a completely new character. So now it's the sky's the limit with how they're going to develop that.
That's something to think about, and how they're actually going to take that now, because they could change his personality and rewrite it completely in a way. But also it means maybe they recognize the fact he didn't get much time to develop in season 1, and therefore giving him this, what is like, have you tried turning it on and off again? He is basically being reset to then further develop in season 2. That is almost like a get out of jail free card in a way, isn't it? Let's just rip away what little character development we did in favor of writing a whole new character. Success! Writing shows 101. I'm not criticizing, it's like slightly funny. It is like a get out of jail free card. But I guess we should also talk about the death of Dom's favorite character, or should I say, quote unquote, death, if we're going to play that card, because that was quite sad to see. And unexpected as well. I didn't expect anyone to die in this, to be honest. I don't know why. Like, sometimes you go into season finals expecting that one character is going to die, because that's the way things go. But I didn't go into Lower Decks expecting a character would actually die, like a main character, because we always see the red shirts in the background or yellow shirts, going at the airlock. But Dom, as you're, the Shaxx fan club founding member, what did you think of that moment?
Yep. I actually did cry at that point.
Okay.
Because
you cried. Oh my god.
Papa Bear died of the bear pack. I did not expect it. I expected him to pull something like a massive gun or something. I don't know. And I really hope that they do a like Toruk Vorik situation where it's just like Shaxx's brother is now security chief.
They could bring him back. Yeah. It's been done before, and if anyone's going to do it, I think Lower Decks. Bring him back using like Q or something like that, and then just play it off where Shaxx is like, Q owed me one. I could totally. And never explain it
even like that. The Cisco owed me one. And just say
let's just have Cisco come up. That'd be a great way to introduce Cisco. Yeah. He just appears for 30 seconds. He's like, here you go. Shaxx owed me one, and then goes back.
God, can you imagine? That would,
wormhole opens, Shaxx is chucked out of it. It's just a thumb that comes out going, there you go, done.
There's no way they'd get Avery Brooks to voice any of the lines, but I would love it if that would happen.
That would be even better. For whatever reason, they're at Deep Space Nine, and all of a sudden the wormhole opens, and it's just Shaxx in like a Federation Starfleet suit, and he's just twirling, still laughing as he's heading towards Deep Space Nine, and they beam him on.
And you don't even need to have like Avery Brooks narrate anything. Shaxx can just awaken in
just an image of a god,
and just be like, oh yeah, Cisco owed me one.
I think number one, I definitely don't think he's dead, but I think the two most likely scenarios with which he survived is either he when the ship exploded, like it like pushed him like out of the ship because he was so close to the edge, and he flew through space and like landed on something and developed an apparatus, or what I think is probably the more likely one is that the Packlids were probably beamed all the other life forms off the ship, because there was 3 other Packlid ships there when the Titan showed up. So it's possible they just did a mass transport of every life form on the ship, and he just wound up on a.
Have you seen how slow their transporters are, though?
That's fair.
That's true.
But somehow they make it work like it was like the one fast transporter.
They just didn't click the button.
Yeah, and they didn't, and they don't even realize he's not a Packlid. Like he's just pretending to be.
He's
one
just
of
wearing
them
the hats and just going with it.
He's got the hat on. Yeah.
And then the Cerritos comes and they find him, and he's undercover. But again, he just has the hat. They don't even realize.
He's wearing it for the whole of season 2.
That's great. Yeah, that's a good idea. I like that.
CBS, my email is around here somewhere. Feel free anytime. Don't actually.
Good ideas for now. Yeah, we'll charge.
Damn, we should be hired.
I know, that's a good idea. I like that. The idea that he's just kind of like hiding out in there with them and kind of just doing his own thing for a little while.
That should be quite fun.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
I don't know. It's like I would love to like bring him back in a way, but it's I don't know. It is interesting and how they'd go about doing that. I guess until we see season 2, but we do know the whole season 2 is written. It's confirmed by Mike McCann, so they wrote it. So I don't know. It's a lot to potentially happen in a minute. I guess we can sort of talk season 2 theories right now because a lot happened in season 1, but season 2. I mean, the benefit of it in a way is we've been left on an open ending. Anything is possible in a way, But the crew have somewhat gone their separate ways. I guess the lower deckers have gone sort of their separate ways. Yes, majority of them are still on the main ship with the main crew. But Boimler's gone off to the Titan. Mariner and her mother have put their differences aside and seem to be working as a dynamic duo. Rutherford's been reset in a way, and Tendi's just back to the normal job. Really, Tendi's the only one in the same sort of experience as when she got there in episode 1 in a way. When we first met Mariner, she was at war with her mum and dad, obviously, but that's even it's gone round now. But Tendi's like come full circle. She's exactly where she was in terms of, she's developed as a character, but she's not really advanced anywhere in particular. She's just on the ship doing her normal job, now helping back Rutherford. I guess that's a way to look at it. But what are we thinking about season 2? Sorry, Dom, you was going to say?
I was trying to say just that Tendi became a liaison officer, and how very little development that is. It's still something.
Oh yeah, true.
That she started as like this fresh-eyed new recruit, and then she came to liaison peanut hamper.
That name. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Exocomp. The Exocomp. Yeah. Oh, I love that character. Anyways.
I did love a bit where it's like, where it's beamed out. It's like, suck it, mortals, I'm off. If only it'd done like a sarcastic Vulcan salute as it beamed out as well.
Yeah, some people were upset about that because it's well, that's not what Starfleet would do. And it's actually, I don't know if we talked about this already, but it's actually just a natural progression of the Exocomp attitude of, I don't want to die, especially for you organics, because that was part of the thing there. It was like, they refused to go and do certain things in the station because it was hurting them, and they didn't want to do it just because that lady was telling them to do it. So it's kind of like a natural progression of that, much more obviously intense version of it. But this is lower decks, so of course it's all turned up to 11. I thought that was great. I liked that. But yeah, as far as season 2, I don't know. I feel like we said earlier, Tendi and Rutherford definitely need time to breathe and to be able to grow as characters. It is interesting that in 8, 9, and 10, like I was saying, they actually were able to formulate a way to get them all to kind of do stuff together and have adventures together. But now they've kind of fractured the group by having Boimler on the Titan, Mariner's kind of working with her mom and potentially getting promoted, may actually have been promoted between seasons. And then you're going to have Tendi and Rutherford kind of doing their own thing. So I don't know how they're going to play that up, or maybe they'll have a regrouping or something like that. I guess I think this is are they going to be lower deckers, literal lower deckers for the entire series? And I feel like the answer is no. I don't know what you guys think.
Yeah. Well, two things. First off, for people who don't like what the Exocomp did, if they're feeling it's not the Starfleet way, definitely suggest they don't watch the original series, The Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, and Enterprise, because that happens in all of those. So if they're not a fan, maybe the animated series, maybe. I'm not as well up on that, but maybe. But don't watch any of the others, because definitely Starfleet has done that. I kind of said it before. I'm interested in season 2 as long as they don't do a reboot. I think that Boimler needs to stay. What was he, Lieutenant JG? He needs to stay a Lieutenant JG. He doesn't need to get bumped down. We saw that he had confidence. He kind of interrupted Riker in a way, and that's a huge thing for Boimler. And Mariner is now at a point where she knows her place. She can work there. So I just don't want them to undo all of that. It would really hurt the series for me. Because I would honestly, if they did that, unless it was an exceptional storyline, I would almost suggest people stop at season 1. But I'm hopeful. He has given me no reason not to trust him with season 1. So I would love to see that expanded, though. Like you said, the captain and Mariner working together, a more confident Boimler now helping out as well would be interesting. And I would be interested. And while the Titan would be fun, I think including it, I'm not against him returning to the Cerritos as long as it's not just undone. And I would love to see the bridge crew stay, because I like the bridge crew. So I think that they'll do good, though. I trust him. This is one of the few Disco era Trek series that I trust, and I'm not going to be cynical about, I think, personally.
Okay.
agree with that. I think that I would say that Mike McMahon has proven himself as somebody who both loves Star Trek and is a capable writer and understands the format and is not going to just cheapen the storyline of his own characters that he's bothered to finally get the opportunity to create. Like he's finally given the opportunity to make the show. I don't think he's going to fuck it up. I don't think he will.
What we've found before, I think it's Dom, you picked this out because you read his book he wrote about Next Gen Season 8, wasn't it? We found the character of Mariner was at least referenced in that book a couple of times, wasn't she? Or it was referenced under a different name or something, wasn't it?
No, it's still Beckett Mariner.
Oh, okay. But basically, I'm saying he's probably been thinking about these characters for a while now. So, I mean, I write my own stories, and you think about where characters want to end up, etc. And obviously, I'm not writing to the detail of how Mike McCann is or something like that, or any other producer for Star Trek. But you have an idea for where you want your characters to go and what you want to do and experience. I hardly think they've ended season 1 and thought, oh shit, what the hell are we going to do now? There's definitely a plan there, and the fact that season 2 has already been written anyway kind of shows you we definitely had an idea. It's not like we've got to the end of season 1 and thought, oh, we've got a season 2. Oh, whoops. Nobody expected us to get one. They had season 2, or 2 seasons from the get-go. They had to have a plan to do it already, else it just wouldn't have flown. Like, I'm pretty sure any exec at CBS or, in Secret Hideout would have gone, well, hang on a minute. It doesn't take a genius to point out if something's not going to work, to be honest. If we can point it out, someone definitely there can point it out. But yeah, I reckon they have a plan.
Yeah, I think that his experience, not only with Star Trek, but also working on Rick and Morty and Solar Opposites, which are shows that are built with very interconnected story structures and plot elements that have a lot of setups and a lot of payoffs. I just don't see them screwing this up in that regard, like you were saying, more like them just undoing it. I feel like that would really cheapen a lot of what happens. So I think they're going to give us something really cool that I think is going to be good, that I think we'll like. I'm excited for it. I'm actually pissed. Yeah. We got to wait a whole other year
for
more fucking Lower Decks. So I guess we'll just have to suffer through Discovery. Season 3.
How rude. Speaking of that, I guess we should also talk about Discovery Season 3, as we do have half an hour to fit everything in. So, obviously, Discovery Season 3 is coming this Thursday for those on CBS All Access. That is Thursday, October 15th. And then it's coming on Netflix for international viewers on the 16th. So look forward to that. Trailers, clips, and things online right now. I'd expect probably another couple of pictures to come out this weekend. Maybe another exclusive clip. Depends how much promotional material CBS want to chuck at people. So keep an eye out for that. Also, there is a premiere, or a virtual premiere. If any of you lucky devils have been invited to that, share your experience on Twitter if you can. But obviously, don't spoil it for people. Remember, spoilers, everyone. We don't want the series spoiled because a lot of people have been looking forward to Discovery Season 3. This is definitely a new frontier for the show and also Star Trek as well. 950 years in the future, literally when no Star Trek show has gone before. Shut up, Enterprise. So yeah, we're going around that way. But gents, what do we think of the trailer so far? What can we expect from it? I'm going to go the other way this time, starting with yourself, Dom.
Where's it going to go? Well, we talked a little bit about it on our stream, but I definitely am still 100% in my theory of the burn was the loss of subspace and warp drive is impractical. So just reconnecting the Federation in this fractured world. They in interviews with Alex Kurtzman, they said how weirdly topical it is for today, and I think that disconnectedness that we're experiencing in our own world will be represented in Discovery, and I'm really excited for what we're gonna see from the trailers that we've seen so far. There have been some interesting little scenes, like I think I picked out maybe a temporal observatory, and maybe those Seeker drones from TNG, but just really, looking forward to where this new frontier will take us.
It's really going to be exciting. And Laura, I guess, what do you think of Discovery Season 3? As you mentioned, a little bit cynical about Discovery Trek, but I suppose Season 3. Tell us your honest thoughts on it.
Yeah, give us your shit talk.
Yeah,
Go on, shoot that opinion down.
I'm not a huge fan of Discovery after Season 1, and I mean, if you guys want the honesty, I think Star Trek marketing lies a lot, so I don't know what to expect. I can say that Season 2 was better than Season 1, but getting punched in the arm is better than getting punched in the eye. It's still not the best. Hopefully Season 3 will be really interesting. I did stumble upon, and I've talked with Kowalski about this, something called Star Trek Federation, which basically almost sounds like what they're doing here. At first I thought they were going to go the way of what's it called? I thought they were going to go the way of Andromeda, yeah. But the more I look at it, I think it's going to be Star Trek Federation, which means that the burn could also be, it could be one of two things. First off, I think it could just be the Federation becoming apathetic, because I think we see that in Picard, and I think if they tied that in, that may happen. Yeah. And there may be this oncoming species that the Federation or Starfleet just doesn't want to fight, and they're just apathetic and lazy. The other thing that would be interesting and would be a direct tie-in, and I don't know how I feel about it if they go this way, but could the burn be the space tentacles, what did you call it, Kowalski?
Synthipede.
The synthipede. Could the burn be the synthipede? Because they never stopped them specifically. So what if they did come through and that was the burn? It just devastated the Alpha and Beta quadrants. I think that could be interesting too.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. I'll say that when they first talked about the burn, Kurtzman said that it wasn't because of the Federation fracturing or becoming apathetic. It was something external to them. But I think the synthipede idea might be the case. But then you've got to consider, like, why wasn't all organic beings gotten rid of and stuff like that. There could be some interesting stories in there, and it could be a nice way to tie in Picard.
I agree. I think that the majority of the fandom has latched on, including ourselves, has latched on to the Omega molecule theory, and that could not necessarily that could just be, like Lord just pointed out, like the marketing sometimes is a little deceptive, and maybe even some of the words that they say
a little deceptive.
They can be deceptive.
Sorry, we're on a different channel. Yeah, it's absolutely a little deceptive.
Come on, Laura, pump in some more of that shield juice. Come on.
I love Kurtzman. He's always honest.
What happened to those $100 I gave you before the stream, Laura? Fucking hell!
Come on, jeez. You wanted all those pictures back there. Now you're not getting any of them. So there you go.
My Ketwolski original is going back to Berlin.
I guess I got to look up that. Yeah, I guess I got to look up that other artist you were talking about.
Anyway, right back to the 40s. Okay.
I've not seen the finest motor. Sorry, I will stop that joke. Carry on.
Yeah. Like, I think that there's an idea. There's an opening, right? That there's other ideas that could have occurred. It could be something that none of us have thought of. The centipede isn't a bad idea because it is certainly possible, especially since they were called essentially and they were almost through all the way and then they got pulled back. That now these beings that are in some kind of a spatial area, we don't know if it's the future, we don't know if it's the past, we don't know if it's a mirror universe or whatever the hell it is. They're in this pocket universe, we'll call it, for a Doctor Who reference. It's pocket universe, and maybe they figured out a way to come through in some regards because they were coming through to meet up with the other synthetic life forms or whatever, and the Federation pushed back, and that was what the burn was, and they were scorching planets or whatever, and that's what the burn refers to. That could also be a very good valid reason, or it could be none of these things, and it could be something completely unrelated that none of us could even have theorized because it's something they just made up.
I did, and I don't want to dominate, but I did have one other theory, and it's a little bit of a stretch. But the other thing I would say is that people are saying, well, now we're finally past all of the lore, all of the things written when it comes to Trek. We're not. That's actually not true.
Yeah.
We know that during this century, during this time, the time agents existed too. And so another tie-in they could do is they could have the burn be associated with the temporal war in some way. Now, that's a stretch. I don't know that they'll go that far, but in theory, that would then tie it back into Enterprise.
I'm glad you brought this up, actually, because as Dom and Nick will tell you, I've been on about a Temporal Cold War since we first got the hint of like that there, because for me, I love Star Trek Enterprise. I think it's a great series, and the inclusion of a Temporal Cold War, as much as most people, or a few people are against it, I love the idea of that, because it not only showed us a prequel series for Enterprise, it gave us a hint towards what to expect in the future of the Trek universe. And sometimes I think people miss that one slightly. It's like, not only are we exploring the past of Trek, we are almost looking at the future of it in a way. So for them to touch on the Temporal Cold War, if they don't mention it whatsoever, I felt like they've missed something heavily there, because the Cold War was before, I think it was 100 years before the series takes place, roughly. Correct me on dates later.
Yeah, it was.
It was at least 31st. Because we're on the 32nd, aren't we? It was the 30th or 31st?
We're in the 32nd.
We're in 32nd, right? Okay. So it took place in the 31st century. Like you mentioned, Lord, they could touch on it and include it, and I hope they do. There at least needs to be a passing reference to, oh, by the way, this happened, and cause a little bit of upset in the Federation. Because it's evidently clear the Federation has somewhat suffered a collapse in the 32nd century here. Therefore, Burnham and the crew of Discovery are going to need a little bit of a recap of what's gone on in ye old Federation town. So they're not exactly going to miss out one big temporal Cold War, which almost destroyed the galaxy and ate the Federation and somewhat killed Archer in a way. I feel like that might be skipping slight of the story there. It's like when you rip the pages out.
During the live stream, they did reference, I think it was Heather Caden. I think
Michelle Paradise.
Was it Michelle Paradise? Okay. Yeah, so she threw out, like right at the beginning there, she was like, that they were aware of some of the temporal stuff. She didn't exactly say the temporal Cold War or Daniels by name, but she made a reference to the fact that there's something going, like there were things that were happening in regards to temporal stuff, and then obviously also the connections to the Voyager temporal police, essentially the time cops with Jean-Claude Van Damme. And so there was definitely, I think they understand that. How much they're going to lean into it, I think, is kind of yet to be seen. But I agree, like they have to bring it up to some regards, because we know that the Federation has the ability to do time travel. So the question every single Trekkie is going to ask is, if a cataclysmic event that destroyed the universe occurred, why did they not prevent it and go back and change it with the time traveling capability? So they have to address it.
I tell you how I'd do it. And this has been a theory that I've had for a while. The only thing we have to go with on the time agents, that they're the good guys, is what Daniels says, right? We have Daniels' word and Daniels' word alone. Daniel hasn't always been upfront about Daniels. Yes. So the way I would do it, and I would tie it into... here's how I'd do it. Because when you look at what the time agents do, generally when they intervene, it helps the Federation in some way. It's not to a detriment of what happens with Starfleet. And so I have always had the theory that Section 31 had a hand in the time age. I don't know if they're in control of it or whatever, but they had agents there.
Yeah.
And then I think that would be a good way to tie in the Section 31 series that's coming out too. Ooh. So you had Section 31. They either gained control or they caused some issue to happen. The temporal Cold War went hot or something negatively happened. They can't go back and fix it. Section 31 is in disarray, and now we have the Emperor come in and start repairing it. If I was writing, and that's what Kurtzman told me to do, that's how I would write it.
There's a good connection there too. There's one group of people inside of the Star Trek franchise history that likes to wear black, and that's Section 31. And when we see Daniels in his regular clothing, it's always black.
Rick Berman is spinning in his non-existent grave. He's not dead. He's just spinning. He's just spinning in general.
I don't hate that idea, because Daniels was always very shady. He was always very cryptic. He was always helpful, but only to a certain extent. It definitely felt like he was hiding things. So, even when he talked about like the Federation, it was always very cryptic. And obviously, he didn't want to impact the past. Or at least that was the implication.
You are correct there.
But yeah, who knows?
What I want to point out,
he was a liar too. He lied all the time to Archer. Sometimes we knew he was lying. Sometimes we found out later. He's not the good guy.
Rules, yeah.
He's
almost like an anti-hero in a way.
He did the same Sloane death with a phase pistol.
Yeah, he disappears, isn't he? It's very I feel like this could be a story we've only just cracked into in a way. In fact, Daniel's a Section 31 the whole time. But what I want to talk about there is Law mentioned Section 31. As we know, Section 31, they neared their end in DS9. So in a man of opinion, obviously, Section 31 started being more public in DS9. Obviously, Discovery slightly changes that law a little bit. But in DS9, obviously, we see Sloane pissing around there, the Dominion War. In the books and beta canon, which was told many years after DS9 ended, Section 31 was later exposed. And by the year of 2385, the organization was outed, at least, I think it was by 2385. Please correct me on dates later. The organization was outed. A lot of high-profile people were arrested. A Federation president was assassinated. I think Admiral William Ross died at one point because he was involved in it somehow. Basically, a ton of people were involved in it. It was all outed. Bashir got himself in a coma because of it. Now, Section 31 was found to be a giant computer virus, which was actually embedded in a lot of like human computers and Federation. Essentially, was running a Federation. Now, Bashir and his companion worked together to stop it. They believed they'd stopped it. However, I believe the virus basically like recalled itself into very deep, dark elements.
It made it
so
think that they stopped.
yeah, it lost control of everything, but over time it was implied it would build back up again. Well, there's no telling how long it would take to build back up. Maybe by Daniel's time it's operational again, it's infiltrated it. Everyone's going to forget stuff by then. A computer can easily delete records. If they really want to be detailed with this, and again, I always see this comment of, oh, you're giving the writers too much credit. But if we can think of this, I can guarantee you people who are paid for it can probably think of it, to be honest. But it's I feel like this could be something to play on. But also, I feel like Section 31, again, could be a bit hit or miss. Like, I wouldn't want to go, oh, we've arrived here, but look what Section 31 have done. I feel like it could be a bit, I don't know, I'm not sure how I'd feel about that in a way. I almost want it to be, I'm happy for it to be Temple Cold War related, but if it's, oh yeah, Section 31 fucked our lives up, I'm not sure how I'd feel about that myself. Just because that's almost a too cliche way to tie it in.
Though that Section 31 was utilizing the time travel stuff first. And the reason I say that is Section 31, like we saw in Discovery, was using a lot of newer technology for the era, including the touch action comm badges that we see later on in the series. You know, it was made popular in TNG. So it is possible, and this is very topical to like real life, like where like certain branches or certain departments of like the federal government or the military will have technology and they will utilize it, and then it will slowly start to trickle out for general use. And obviously that's clearly what they were implying there, is that they had access to these comm badges first, and then it slowly trickled out from there back into the regular Federation. So it's possible that they had the time travel stuff first, maybe screwed some shit up, but then it slowly trickled into these time agents, and they started to kind of, you know, do their normal Federation utilization of that technology. But they just had made too many mistakes in the past, and they screwed around with too much, and it just caused all these things to happen. And maybe the Accords prevented them from actually doing anything about it. Maybe they had to just allow it to happen. I don't know. It's interesting, though. It is very interesting. Well, maybe they are even aware of it. Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I was just going to say there's one other thing, and if you can go if I interrupted you, but there's only one other thing that I've always held, and I don't get upset with the advancements we see Section 31 have in Discovery, especially since it looks Borg-like, and keep with me here, nor the advancements we see in Deep Space Nine. And just hear me out. So we know Section 31 originally existed before the Federation on the United Earth. Now, there was an Enterprise episode where they find the Borg sphere, and they find working Borg technology. Yep. We never see it again. We never hear about it, and the Federation knows nothing about it. If I had to guess, I would say Section 31 found out after what happened with the science crew. They moved in, got the technology, made it disappear from records, and now they are, what was that, 24th century, and they're in the 20th century. They have the most advanced tech they could find, which also we saw use time travel and such. So it would explain them having time travel. It also explains why in Discovery their stuff looks very Borg-like and has Borg technology. And then it fits right in with what you guys are saying. But ultimately they keep messing with something that they're not used to or they don't know, which could then...
I mean, that's the bad guy faction 101, isn't it? Let's mess with stuff we don't understand. You are correct, though, and I believe it's referenced in a book. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure at least one book references the fact that stuff was taken from that research site. I would have to double check my references, but I believe it's referenced somewhere. Dom's giving me an eye at the minute. I definitely think it's referenced somewhere. I think it is. I think I've read it somewhere.
It would have to be covered up. It would have to be covered up.
I definitely thought of this as well, especially when the episode when Leland gets occupied by nanites.
You mean where he literally gets assimilated like a normal person?
I definitely thought that was, you know,
by light green colored nanite drones.
The remains in the Arctic Circle. After the researchers did, and then they took it all. And then
it's the only way Section 31.
And then Control would have access to that information and that technology.
Yeah.
I think that's I think there's more to that. I would be because they obviously were building up Control to be somewhat of a Borg origin. We were all theorizing that was clear, like, it was very obvious, and then they kind of like suddenly pivoted away from it, and it was something else. And
what
I'm wondering if
sorry, I keep doing that. I was just saying, what year was Control supposed to destroy the universe?
That I think was up in the air because I don't really.
You know, that whole storyline is really flimsy. I just need to say that.
Yeah, that's a little bit flimsy. Not clear at all as to when Control was supposed to actually do the destruction of the universe thing. All I know is that when Dr. Burnham went to the future, it had already happened, and then she had found the point
I think it was
at which and then she just continued to make those 800 or so jumps back to try to prevent that from kind of happening. And I do think that the whole, because I mean, like, the whole control thing is just Leland getting the nanites just kind of slammed out of his body, and then suddenly like control is gone. We don't know if control is gone. We don't even know if those nanites are necessarily gone. And we could do some kind of causality loop where they've traveled into the future and they've now got this, these nanites there that have this powerful AI that's on board of the Discovery. And there could be more to that, because it seemed weird that they pivoted so hard suddenly away from this Borg connection into something that was not that. And it feels like either they just tried to drop the storyline because maybe they just thought it was too ambitious, or they were like, actually, we're going to just save this for something later. And maybe that's what we're kind of looking at, is maybe something that's going to be later on. I don't know. There's some interesting theories there, though. That's interesting. I like that. I like the Borg connection and Section 31 and all that stuff. I feel like there's a little bit more to do there. But people may be upset about that, because now that would be, like, we just had the Borg in Picard. Borg is very popular. Maybe that's too much. I don't know. I don't feel like that. I like the Borg, but I know some people are like, enough with the Borg. Those people suck. So that's how I feel about that. But anyway,
it's an interesting one. Yeah, I don't know what to think about. Anyway, let's quickly chat about Star Trek Prodigy, because we meant to talk about that, and we're nearing 10 o'clock anyway. So Prodigy, of course, that was announced. Kate Mulgrew is now returning as Janeway to the Star Trek universe in a brand new Star Trek Prodigy animated series from Dan and Kevin Hageman, which is coming to Nickelodeon and is engineered towards being a kids show. It's going to be CGI animated in a way. And it's looking, well, I can't say it's looking interesting. It's sounding interesting, shall I say. Kate Mulgrew seems very excited to be back. It's great to have another Star Trek legend back. Just like Sir Patrick Stewart's back for Star Trek Picard, we now have Janeway back for Star Trek Prodigy. It's pretty interesting with the layout of this series so far and how they're going to do it. It appears Janeway will be somewhat guiding or mentoring these lawless teens who somehow found a Federation starship and are going to be journeying around and adventuring. How that's going to go, not too sure yet. But gents, what do we think about that? Law, I'm going to go to you first. Tell us your thoughts.
I was gonna do a quick correction. Wiki, not that you can trust Wiki, but Wiki says it's actually she's chasing them.
Really?
I saw that too. I don't know. I don't know if we can trust that. Or, I mean,
I'd say
it's confirmed. I mean, did Kurtzman give you a call up, or how'd that? Do you just not believe it? Is there something you know?
I don't believe it. There's just no. I mean, we're tuned in on as much as possible.
I mean, I'll have to check the stream again, but I definitely didn't hear chasing. Because I heard,
I heard you guys if you say it.
I thought
it
was she's mentoring it in a way.
Yeah, the way she spoke about it was not that she was chasing them at all.
They could also what's it called when they get sent to a not Space Quest. What was it where they're on
Galaxy
a ship
Quest?
And not Galaxy Quest either. They're on a ship, they're trying to get someplace, the thing messes up and they're in a random thing. Will Robinson is what he yells out.
Lost in Space.
Lost in Space. They could have Lost in Space it, where the kids find this ship, they're being chased by Janeway, and all of a sudden she's trying to save them. Like she's the antagonist, but not the bad guy. If you
We're just gonna get that series final Janeway again, where it's a really sort of no shits given white haired Janeway, that Admiral Janeway.
Right. and then they find themselves somewhere. They could do that. I mean, I trust you guys. If that was wrong, I was pointing that out.
I don't. Yeah.
We don't know anything about it though.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
There's
nothing to say that. There's nothing against that. You know, people who are like, she's going to be the antagonist. I honestly think that was written, and maybe this is me wearing my tinfoil hat. I think that was written by people who are just trying to imply that the show is going to suck. And
we see this every time a new announcement is made for bloody anything under the sun. And I hate to be the person mentioning it, but it generally does irk me slightly. Every time I could announce tomorrow that Kurtzman is shitting gold bricks, and someone would find a bad thing about it. It's kind of a bad thing. You get my point, though. Every time something new is announced, we haven't even seen anything of Prodigy yet. No concept art. We've only seen the bloody logo, for Christ's sakes, and that isn't much to go by, because usually they change by the end of it anyway, as we've seen with Discovery and Picard before. They love changing their branding. We've seen nothing yet. People are like, oh, this show's going to look terrible. You've not even seen it yet. Just give it a chance.
And that's why I think that somebody threw that in there as to be like, you see, they're going to destroy Janeway.
Oh, yeah.
He's the bad guy. And it's like...
Yeah, there's videos already.
Is that?
Yeah, and it's already too much.
Oh, yeah. Because I'm the guest, and you guys can just say that, apologize, and never have me on again. I'm
just writing it now, I should say.
Yeah. It's one of the most ridiculous things I've ever seen, and just puts those channels and that movement to absolute shame. We don't know anything that's going to happen in Prodigy. There's no idea. There's also a reason, and here's a hint. It's not because they hated it, that they stopped doing reviews of Lower Decks. It's just Lower Decks was good. There was no money to be made off of it, calling it crap, because it was good. And we don't know anything about Prodigy. And they were brigading the New York Comic-Con live stream. Panel. Like a day before it went live. You don't even know what they're going to say, and you're already saying that song. I hate that this is an industry in our fandom. It is one of the most ridiculous things, and as I said, if anyone ever wants to debate me, it would be one of the greatest things for you to destroy me on my own channel. You're more than welcome. Come on, but you won't, because you're wrong. You know you're wrong, and you're not going to make money getting those clips. Unfortunately, you don't want those clips being shared on 4chan.
Well, I would say one of the weirdest things from that was some of them were donating to the New York Comic-Con stream.
Oh yeah,
like $10 just to say I don't like Prodigy, I don't like Lower Decks, and it's like,
cool,
you're giving
thanks for your money.
$10 not even to like Star Trek, but to New York Comic-Con.
Yeah, who probably couldn't give a shit.
They donated a super chat of $10 multiple times. I saw like a $10 or $5.
Yeah, we was watching it.
Like trying to troll, and there was one, I don't even know who set it out. Like somebody did one, and they just redacted the message.
Yeah, they just sent it away
straight away.
But they took their money.
I don't think you can refund them, because YouTube system is kind of like, well, broken in a way. I don't think you can refund super chats in a way. I'd have to double check, but I'm pretty sure once you submit that, unless you submit a ticket to YouTube support, in which case, good luck.
No, are they gonna refund it?
You submitted it.
It's the thing is, and I've talked about this obviously a lot, but it's like, here we are. Like, listen. Season 1 of Discovery was a hot mess. It was a shit show, and it's okay to say that. It was tough, but
it was their first attempt.
Right. They made some good progress with Season 2. They had some great episodes of Picard, even though there was some bad ones. Lower Decks is a great thing. We've got good short treks coming out. Like, we've got Strange New Worlds coming. Like, guys, Season 1 of Discovery was almost 4 years ago. It's time to move on. It's time to let it go, and let's start actually just watching Star Trek. Like Kurtzman was just the other day talking about how he's got a plan all the way through to 2027. You know, it's like, this is here to stay. So either like get on board and start providing good constructive criticism, or just enough of it. Like you're just hating everything in any possible avenue. And like, yeah, all of this anger. Like, the people were freaking out because they called her Captain Janeway instead of Admiral Janeway. They called her Admiral Janeway for like 30 seconds in Nemesis, which nobody saw because it didn't make any fucking money. Getting upset.
But also, it's the same thing we refer to, like, whenever someone who doesn't watch Star Trek or rarely watched it, when they hear Picard, they'll think, Captain Picard. We still refer to Picard as Captain Picard
same
in a
for
way.
Kirk.
Yeah, we still Captain James T. Kirk. Obviously, he did get demoted in a way, so you can argue that in the law in a way. But it's like, you know, people don't refer to, you know, even I'm pretty sure in Picard, they refer to him as Captain Picard at least once or twice, because that's his legendary status. He is known as, you know, Captain Picard, not Admiral Picard. He was Admiral for, 5 minutes?
Janeway is known as the captain who came back from the Delta
Quadrant. The captain of the USS Voyager, not the Admiral of the USS Voyager. It doesn't quite make sense, that one, does it? But I agree with what Law said there, and, you know, how it is like, I guess I've got to be careful what I say here. It's an interesting part of our industry where, you know, money is made and views are made off this stuff. And as somebody who runs, and I can say this because I'm in charge of TC, as somebody who runs TC and a few other outlets covering news, it really is a pain in the ass to have a fight with, like, when we report the real news, people going, they're going to ruin the characters. Like, you don't know yet. Even we don't know what's going on, and we're reporting the literal legit information. How much better can you get? And you experience as well as a content creator covering the same stuff, and you obviously work for us as well. But it's like, it is so frustrating. When we sit here on live stream, we discuss it all the time, etc. It's just really frustrating, but we're in this industry, you know, where fake news can, like, rule, you know, whatever it is. And you get what I mean now. I don't have to point out the obvious, but
it's just to what Katwalski says too. It's just frustrating. It's like every time they do it, they get so angry. It's like, oh, look, I don't know that I agree or not, but they're like, oh, it's identitarian politics or whatever. Even if we assume that's what it is, it's been 4 years and every one of them does it. Why are you acting like this is new news?
Right. Why are you still getting
this is Disco era Trek. This is what Disco era Trek is. So just let it go. It's honestly, I mean, just debating them is like debating flat earthers. I don't even know why I put that challenge out. But anyway,
good luck.
Yeah, I mean, right, you're right to say that. It's like it's again, it's like this is for these shows, at least for Discovery, specifically for Discovery, which seems to be the vehicle for those kinds of things. That's the show. Like that's it. And he even went on. I think it was San Diego, or was it Star Trek Day, or one of the things where Kurtzman was like, "We're like this is literally it. We're using this specifically as a platform for this thing."
Well, that's Star Trek Universe. They have an entire industry now, entire section. Star Trek Universe is all about diversity. It's just what it is. We don't even have to debate whether it's good or not. I know I'll disagree with not you guys, but the others when it comes to whether it's good or not. Personally, I think I like it. But even regardless of that, it doesn't matter. It's just what it is. Stop being so and here's the dirty little secret no one wants to let you know. Here's what it is.
Go on,
even if they got rid of Kurtzman, they would still have it. Okay, unless I'm not even going to say because this is Trek Central and not Lore Reloaded, but they're still going to have all of this. It's still going to id politics for days, boys.
Star Trek has always been about politics and diversity. You've seen this over the 50-year legacy, so I don't understand why it comes to such a surprise now that they're doing it. The only reason it's more prevalent now is because the times have caught up. You can discuss LGBTQ plus relationships more openly now. We saw it on the Star Trek Day panel where George Takei, who is famous for playing Sulu in the original series in the Star Trek franchise, the actor himself is gay and has been for quite all his life, obviously. Excuse that comment. Yes, what I meant. I've got confused there. So he discussed, they couldn't do that back then in the 1960s because it wasn't really allowed on TV. And that is, thankfully, we as a humanity civilization have grown to a point where it can be discussed now. And he's proud of that. I'm pretty sure George Takei loves the fact that it can be discussed now. I follow him on Twitter and Facebook, and he's always sharing stuff, how people are proud, etc., stuff like this. It makes sense that Star Trek can now discuss these things. And it's not even when it comes to sexuality, when it comes to politics as well. Certain politics couldn't really be discussed back then. I had to be very careful of what was said and what message was sent across there, particularly in the 60s. I don't know about myself, I wasn't around, obviously. Politics couldn't be discussed back then. Ideals couldn't be discussed back then. Now, because we're in a such more open space, things can. And, I don't understand why it comes such as a shock to people, why diversity is included and celebrated now. It should be. Why shouldn't we celebrate diversity and stuff in Star Trek? I don't see why people have a problem with it. It's not shoving it down your throat. It's just making you more aware of it. Maybe it's just because maybe it's because I'm young or something. I don't know. But for me, it doesn't seem a problem. I don't know why it seems a problem.
Actually, no. I'm gonna say like what you just said right there at the end is actually kind of the point. It's because it is geared towards a younger generation of people who are much more open and want to see these very obvious. I guess you could say representations.
We want to see ourselves in it in a way. That makes sense.
They want to see, like, the younger generation absolutely wants to see this, and that's to say, like, it has evolved, it has increased over time, and Laura, you're 100% right. Alex Kurtzman he is a driving force behind this, absolutely, but he's not the only one. If he were to go away, Secret Hideout were to go away, CBS has that niche. They're not letting that go. And they know, like, that's it. Like, it has nothing really to do with Kurtzman at all. That's what they're doing now. And it is cranked up. And it's important to crank it up because people say, like, well, it was more subdued. Like, look at the original series. Like, they challenged things, and it was much more subdued. It wasn't subdued back then, though. Like, when they had the interracial kiss, it wasn't subdued. He literally put lips on Uhura. Kirk put lips on her. You know what I mean? And it was on
What
television.
A great description that is.
Well, and people were pissed, and even in Star Trek,
they said they got so many complaints about that thing. Though I'm pretty sure I remember them speaking about it before. It's been spoken somewhere. Well, I think it was George Takei himself who actually said it in Star Trek Day. Me and Dom were watching it. I'm pretty sure it's one of the most heavily complained about episodes ever because of that. But do continue on what you're saying.
It's even in the original series, and I understand that this is the unaired pilot, but you had that scene where Captain Pike is sitting there, number one is sitting there, and he's like, I'm just not used to the idea of a woman being on the bridge. But that was a big deal at that time. But now it seems almost comical in nature. It's like, that's so silly. What a silly thing for him to say. But at the time, like, having the woman being the first officer and being in charge of things, like, it was a big deal. I mean, they even went through the whole thing where they had to change Nichelle Nichols' her costume, her uniform, from being gold because it implied that she was in charge of things to red because it was too much. And it's important to note that it wasn't always easy peasy and they were just subduing things and it was all like super layered into the scripts. There was a lot of things that they were pushing and a lot of things that they were like not doing at all. But now we have the opportunity for them to really put it front and center. And I think that's great. As long as it's done well, which I've talked about this a lot recently, but like if you look at the Hugh Culber and Stamets,
we discussed this. I think it was last week or something, didn't we?
Yeah, I feel like that relationship was done very well. I thought it was very authentic.
Yeah, I mean, I'll talk about it for a minute. I love the fact that was spoken about, because having a gay or an LGBTQ, sorry, I always get that acronym wrong. Relationship on screen. It is quite a few many letters now. Having it on screen, but almost in a casual way. They didn't shove it down your throat. And I've had my issues with TV shows before. One TV show I had an issue with, the BBC producing Doctor Who. I'm pretty sure we've all watched at least a couple of episodes here. They did an opening episode where they introduced a new companion for Peter Capaldi's Doctor. She was Bill Potts, I believe. Now, the opening episode they introduced her, they rammed it down our throats that she was bisexual. Okay, cool. I'm pretty sure we've had Captain Jack Harkness for years. I'm pretty sure we've all grasped the idea that people are into other things. It's John Barrowman, for Christ's sakes. If we couldn't grasp that, we're out of it. But they introduced that and it shoved it down our throats. However, when you look at Hugh Culber's and Stamets' relationship, I'd say it's perfectly handled. Wasn't shoved down our throats. Didn't even know it until they turned up in the bathroom scene. Really, I think that was their first scene together, which said, "Oh, by the way, there's something going on here." But it's not like they were running around with pride flags down the corridor every 5 minutes. Was it going to look at us,
just skipping down the hallway, holding each other's hands.
Yeah, exactly. It's, for some reason, the way people describe it, you think they might as well have done that.
Yeah, they have rainbow uniforms on.
Now I want to see that.
Yeah, I do want to see that.
But it's like, people complain about it.
I think. Go ahead.
No, as you're saying, Lord, please continue.
Oh no, I think Hugh and Stamets are probably the best romance that I of Trek so far, in my opinion. The one thing I think there is a difference between the way it was portrayed in TNG and Deep Space Nine when it comes to politics and the original series. I think the original series is a good example. And the one thing that I've always stated, because again, and this is too long a conversation, so I'll just briefly hit. I do think TNG and DS9 do politics drastically different than Discovery, but I think the original series is probably more on par with Discovery. The thing is a lot of the people who are having these issues, a lot of the critics, more grew up on TNG and Deep Space Nine, and those two played it a little safe. I'm not saying they weren't leaning liberal, but they played it a little more safe than the original series. And the one thing I would say to that is, because of that, they did things that were more established, and that's a part of the confusion or the criticism that you get. Because again, like you said, in the original series, they got a ton of hate, and even Deep Space Nine got a lot of hate for having a black captain, though not as much as they would have in the 60s or anything. But they showed.
Yeah, right.
I always remember the I think it's the What We Left Behind documentary, which I always bring up because it's a fantastic documentary. Me and Dom saw that in an actual theatre when we could go outside the house without dying again, and that was fantastic because I remember, I forgot my name, Alexander Siddiq, who plays Dr. Julian Bashir. His one line always sticks with me when describing Avery Brooks' portrayal of Sisko. He's like, "Look, America, here's this big black captain on your screens in your face. We're doing this, and we're doing it now. Deal with it." I'm pretty sure that's his quote or elucidates. Please find it and send it to me on Twitter. It was something along those lines. It was like, it's in your face. You're going to deal with it anyway. We're doing it. And like, that is fantastic because I obviously love David Brooks' portrayal of Sisko as an actor. He's fantastic. There's so many good scenes in there. But it's like, Star Trek dealt with that really well. So it aligns with what you just said, Velor. But I definitely think, there's an extended discussion to be had on how the politics of previous Star Trek iterations now relate to the modern iterations, because obviously there's clearly a difference, and there will be a difference. Politics, like everything, evolves over time. What you couldn't discuss back in DS9 or the original series era, you can now openly discuss now. Good, brilliant, we can discuss it now. I think anything you can't discuss is stupid anyway. You should be able to discuss these topics openly. So the fact Star Trek can do it now is fantastic. But I believe, we should all come back maybe after Discovery's over in next year and have like a big hour-long discussion about the politics in Trek. So I really think we could get some...
and live streaming too. Sorry, I was just saying, live streaming, they don't have to worry about what you'd have to worry about on a channel. They can put whatever they want on there and not worry as much about being shut down or politics.
Yeah.
Right.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Kevin.
No, I was going to say is that in season 3 of Discovery is going to have a lot more with the sexual orientation kind of representation in this season, and I am interested to see how that plays out. And I think we should sit down and talk about what the fallout, I guess, is probably going to be the bit of fallout because people are still going to be mad about it. You know, they're going to say enough with the identity politics and the sexual orientations in my Star Trek, and it's just.
I honestly fully expect this, and I'll be completely honest with you, it's going to fucking piss me off, and sorry for my language, I swear on you, but it's going to really tick me off when people start coming at Discovery going, oh, why are you discussing transgender and non-binary issues? Well, they need to be discussed. Transgender and non-binary is something that's come up, well, it's obviously been about in our civilization for years, but I would say, and you guys could agree with me or disagree with me, it's become more prominent in the last 10 years. I think we as humans have been able to discuss, I feel like I'm getting really philosophical here, but we're more discussing being non-binary and being transgender in the last 10 years. I feel like that's become more, maybe it's because I've grown up and accepted, I don't know. I just feel like maybe it's become more prominent to discuss. Do you guys agree with that or not?
I would agree with that. And again, it goes right back to the original series, right? When they had the interracial kiss, that was a big deal back in the 60s. But here we are, all of these years later, decades later, and now the construct of an interracial relationship, for the most part, for most people, is not a big deal. You know, and that's the thing is like I'm sure it was the water cooler discussion at the time, but now it's like nothing. It's literally not even something that people bring up, and you know, potentially in 50 years, the transgender and the non-binary stuff or whatever else there's going to be is just going to be very commonplace for people to be able to talk about. And I think these are good vehicles with which to bring up those discussions. And
Star Trek spearheading this discussion as well is a great idea.
It's ultimately, it is just a damn television show.
Yeah.
You know, ultimately it's just a television show.
Well, the one thing I'll say that I, regardless of what I agree with how they're doing it or where they're going, I think Star Trek, the brand, the people who are in charge of Star Trek, CBS, I think they sincerely are pushing this because it's something that they want to push. I don't think that there is some brand and money in it, but I sincerely think that this is what they feel. It doesn't feel like Disney, which just throws stuff in or tries to milquetoast it or anything like that. Or even Star Wars. I think Star Wars goes milquetoast too. I think that the Star Trek brand, people, this is what they want to do. This is their mission. So it's not just about the money. Even though I'm sure.
I totally agree with you there because, you know, you mentioned Star Wars as well. Star Wars had to remove, what was it? The first LGBT kiss from Rise. Even though it was a 2-second thing, you wouldn't have noticed anyway if you blinked or got
in
some
the background.
Popcorn.
You literally would have.
But they had to remove it for China or whatever it was.
As it was going by, and it was way in the back corner, out of focus. Like it was way over there.
Yeah, they had to remove it for some Eastern countries, I believe, or certain countries, etc. Not like classing them together, which is, you know, fucking disastrous. I totally don't agree with that. But I understand some countries have different laws, etc. You got to respect them to a degree. So yeah. But anyway, I think we discussed plenty enough for the stream today. As I think we could probably discuss another hour alone on stuff like this. But we'll start ending off here. I think it's been a fantastic discussion today, gentlemen. So thank you for joining with it. Before I do end off, Star Trek Discovery is back on our screens on Thursday, the 15th. That's the 15th on CBS All Access. I hope you'll join me in watching our review. And also it's back on the 16th if you're watching it via Netflix, if you're in international countries like moi here and Dom obviously. But if not, I hope you do enjoy it. Remember, don't post the spoilers. We'll be back with our episode review on Thursday, and then we'll also be discussing it live on our weekly live stream on Sundays at 9 p.m. BST. I hope you'll join me there. We're back here next weekend at the same time. This week we've got a whole host of Star Trek Discovery content coming towards you, including maybe a live stream celebration on Wednesday. Keep an eye out for that. We might be here talking all your favorite Star Trek Discovery episodes, discussing the last, speculation for what's going to come up in Discovery Season 3. Hopefully you'll join out with us and you're excited that Discovery is returning. Thanks for joining us for the end of this live stream. Dom, Nick, Laura, thank you for joining us. Laura, it's been a pleasure having you as our special guest, and hopefully we'll have you back soon.
Thanks for having me. Been great.
And where can people find you, just to end it off on?
YouTube.com/Lore Reloaded is the best way to go. I'd love to get some subscribers. That'd be fun. So yeah, so check me out.
Well, I'm sure everyone can go check out Laura's channel. He's been a fantastic guest this evening. Thank you to everyone who viewed us as per usual. We had over 100 of you viewing. Thank you to Sarah and Terry who donated tonight. Terry did initial donation. You said it's Canon, Riker, and Troy are swingers now, but we'll leave that discussion for another time. We're never discussing that one. But thank you very much to everyone for discussing and joining us this evening. We'll be back very soon. Good night.